Every single ambitious entrepreneur wants to feel motivated to work every single day. They want to have consistent motivation and focus without crashes every single day. And most of these people don't lose motivation because they're lazy. They lose it because they're leaking it throughout the day without realizing it. And that's why you're disciplined, ambitious, yet still feel flat and unmotivated. Most people think motivation comes from adding things and more stimulation. More music, more caffeine, more podcasts, more content, more ice baths, more exercise. And that's exactly why motivation keeps getting worse. The key thing to remember is that motivation is regulated, not created. If you constantly stimulate and distract your brain doesn't become more motivated, it becomes more numb. And usually there's three things that are silently destroying your motivation without you realizing. And the first one is constant stimulation. For example, music. When you listen to music, you spike your dopamine, and when you spike your dopamine baseline gets lower over time. If you always listen to music in the background, that's slowly ruining your brain, and things will stop feeling exciting over time. I personally notice this when I start training at the gym and I blast music the entire time. I have great workouts, it feels very good, but for some reason throughout the week I feel way less motivated to do the work, and that's why I figured this out as an example. And I'm not saying never listen to music, I'm just saying stop outsourcing and depleting your dopamine sources to music, if you think that music has no effect on your motivation and your performance, because it definitely does, and you need to be a little bit more stingy. Now, the second thing that is destroying your focus and your motivation levels without you realizing is context switching and novelty seeking, because your brain releases dopamine in anticipation for things. Whenever you check apps or you speak to multiple people, you're switching messages, you're changing tasks, you're doing different things all the time, your brain is releasing dopamine through this because it's anticipating something new and exciting. And so you might find yourself unmotivated and find it very difficult to sit and do one thing at a time. That's because you've trained your brain to constantly seek new things instead of just do one thing at a time and get the job done. And if you keep doing this, if you keep context switching and novelty seeking, it's hard to say that word, then you're going to find it very hard to do work. You're going to be very impatient, and you're going to think there's something wrong with you because you just can't sit down and do the work. And it's annoying because when you're in this state, you feel like you're just weak-minded or you need more discipline. But in reality, you've just kind of ruined your brains. You just dysregulated your dopamine system completely, right? Now, the third thing that is silently destroying your motivation and your focus is being in a scarcity environment or a negative environment around people or events that aren't conducive to a motivated and focused mindset. And this isn't just mindset, this is quite biologically related. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how. Your social environments affect your nervous system, right? When you have a lot of negativity, your brain thinks that there's a threat nearby. Whenever you're around people that always say negative scarcity shit like, that's going to take long, or that seems very hard, or that seems pretty difficult, I don't know if you can do that, or that's very expensive, or I don't know if I should do that. People that are speaking out of scarcity, fear, and just low vibration thoughts. That's the kind of shit that can definitely affect your biology and your mindset and your motivation. Your brain cannot stay motivated in an environment where it's constantly getting threat signals left, right, and center. Have you ever hung out with people that just seem negative, and when you go home you just don't feel like working, you just feel like you can't do anything, things just feel very hard, you're just questioning why, or you just don't have that feeling, that drive, that confidence to go ahead and do the things that you were already pursuing before you hung out with these people. And just to be clear, this is not about cutting people out of your life completely. It's just about protecting and controlling your environment a little bit more, being more conscious of it, and being careful, pretty much. And if I've explained 3 things that you feel like you've done and you feel like, oh my god, I'm an idiot, blah blah blah, don't feel bad, because most people do this. I struggled with this massively. I used to always occupy my brain with dopamine from the age of 10 until when I fixed my brain when I was 19. I was either listening to music, watching a video, playing a game, talking to someone, always occupying my brain and just always releasing dopamine, not regulating my system at all, right? And the same thing with context switching. I would always go from thing to thing, and I just couldn't do one thing at a time. I have ADHD, and that's kind of something that we impulsively do a lot more than others. And it's something I've been able to conquer over the past few years, and it's made a huge difference. I would not be able to get any work done if I wasn't able to control this, right? And living in the world now, you don't need to have ADHD to suffer from these things, because the social media, short form content, things that encourage context switching and novelty seeking is everywhere. So you need to have the control and system set up in place to actually avoid that, right? And for the last example, negative environment, that's something that you can only be aware of once you really be present and think, okay, well, when I hang out with that person, when I speak to these people, even if it's family, guys, I know it sounds crazy, but like even around your family, if you notice that they keep saying shit that makes you feel unmotivated and just affects your psyche, then you need to have some control over it. Either speak to them, speak to your friends in your family, just hang out with people less, have better friends, because that affects your internal dialogue, it affects your nervous system, it ruins your motivation. So I made all these mistakes. The third one is kind of hard, because you grow up with these people your whole life, you grow up with your family your whole life. I'm not saying my family's like that. Once I stopped stimulating my brain, stopped novelty seeking, and I cleaned out my environment, it was way easier to stay motivated, and I was just a lot more stable. Once you're able to implement these 3 steps, you're much more likely to be the person who's able to just have stable, consistent focus. Day in and day out throughout the week, you're not going to be perfect every single day, but it's going to be way more stable and consistent. You're not going to find yourself wanting to have nicotine and caffeine and question why you're unmotivated and why you're tired and why you feel this certain way. You're going to be consistent. Way more consistent. And so you basically stop chasing motivation and instead you protect it. Now, if you got to this point in the video and you feel like, oh, well, maybe I'll do it, maybe not, I've kind of got my own thing going, whatever, I don't have time for it. If you don't follow these 3 principles, I can guarantee you, like, you're going to feel less motivated. You're going to have these burnout cycles, these motivation dips and peaks all the time. You're going to question why you don't feel like doing work. You're going to continuously rely on nicotine and caffeine and whatever other things you're relying on, and you're going to feel capable, but like you're underpowered. Like you just can't get the things done that you can get done. And most of you guys don't suffer because you don't have motivation. It's because you're destroying it in the first place and you're never able to actually regulate it and be more consistent with it. And that's pretty much it, boys. I hope you found this helpful. Hope it resonated. Hope it shifted a few beliefs in your brain. Leave a like if it did. Sub and comment. I've got more content coming out like this. And if you want my one-to-one help in building your health and performance system, as an entrepreneur, you can click the link in the description. But besides that, I'll speak to you in the next one. Ciao.